Think about it a little bit for a moment. By that time, I will offer some invocation prayers. Just think about this statement that I just made for a moment. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhupada Shri Gaura Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. So the absolute happiness, is that concept foreign or it's familiar concept? Anybody would like to expound? How would you like to attempt to respond? What do you think about the absolute happiness? Okay, since we always have to pretty much define, first of all, what we are discussing, and maybe we will see later on if you are having some realization or some kind of idea what our position could be. Absolute means what? What would mean absolute? Yes. Forever, okay. That's not bad. Forever. Anything else? Yes. Okay. Confirmed truth. Authentic. Yes.
Unchanging, eternal, topmost.
Okay. Since you forced me to. Okay, absolute means something that it's complete. No? Something that involves everything else. Something that might be source of everything else. Something that it's beyond sometimes even comprehension. Something that it's the best, no? Topmost. So something that cannot go beyond that. Something that defines perfection, let's say. So it's a perfection. So it's an absolute. So now we definitely don't have that kind of experience in this material world, in these material bodies. We don't have any kind of experience of anything being absolute, except for ourselves. Except for ourselves. What does that mean? Desire to live. Desire to exist. That's on the absolute platform. Because birth, death, that is relative. That's not absolute. And just like when we talk about spiritual life, we always use the word absolute. Because absolute means, again, it's perfect. It relates to anyone, anytime, any place. Just like we may talk about knowledge, anything else that we might be doing, but in spiritual process, that's absolute. It's just perfect, unchanging. So when we talk about happiness, we want to experience happiness. That's our natural right. No? We talked about it last time. Anandamaya Vyasa, that's the nature of the soul. And anything else contrary to happiness is just met with a lot of opposition from our own natural point of view. We just don't like to be unhappy, or whatever it's termed as unhappiness, even if sometimes people may consider that some kind of satisfaction. And just because of that natural propensity that we are looking for happiness, then they will take that as that kind of experience as some kind of experience of so-called happiness. Because we defined, if you remember last time, we defined happiness in different modes. No? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So, pig can be happy eating or living in a sewer, no? That's why it's called sewer, no? That's happy. And anyone ever seen a skin pig? I mean, piglet or hog or something. Anyone ever seen the skinny one? You've seen the skinny one? No, but that's my question. Did you ever see? They're all so happy and satisfied. No, they're so healthy. No, and where they're living, what they're so satisfied. No, do you think the man can be satisfied like this? Yeah, living in such horrible, smelly conditions. Well, some people do, try, and then they get that kind of body next life. That's also there. It happens. But that's mode of ignorance. That's mode of ignorance. So there are different levels of happiness. But again, as we pointed out, real happiness is an eternal happiness. That means absolute happiness. And this is something that we are not experiencing in this material world. We are not experiencing absolute happiness because every now and then there is some difficulty that we have to deal with. No? There's some obstacle we have to deal with. There's some trouble we have to deal with. It's not an absolute. That means absolute, it's constant. And even more so, it's ever increasing. Have you ever been happy and your happiness keeps on increasing? You can't even imagine that. Because we have to have, just like, we have to experience something bad that we understand that we are happy. But that's not happiness. Vedama. That's not happiness. Happiness means, by definition, when we talk about spiritual happiness is just eternal, everlasting, ever increasing. That's what happiness is. So that's why it's our nature. We're just seeking for happiness. That's what we said. We are doing so many things and we want to experience so many things. Why? Because we want to be happy. We will definitely not do anything that we will know that it will cause us misery. We will not choose that unless we really something in some kind of mental different state. Definitely, that's our nature. We want happiness. So therefore we see and we can understand to some extent what could absolute mean, at least by some logic. Just like in this material world, we hear of Svarga Loka, no? We hear of heavenly planets. Enjoyment, this, that, whatever it is. No? And then we also discuss, we hear about hellish planetary systems. We hear about sufferings and so many things. So then when we look at this planet, it is said that this planet is the planet which is in the middle, Bhu, Svarga, of course, that comes higher. But we're in the middle, of course, then down there is Atala, Patala, Sutala, Vitala, Tala, Tala, Mahatala, Asatala, so many talas are there, 7. And then there are hellish planetary systems. But we're in the middle. So we experience both. We experience happiness, we experience distress, so-called happiness again. But again, that happiness, it's not real happiness because it's temporary, no? And it's always mixed. There's always some mixture. Just when you think in life, everything goes well, everything is so wonderful, everything is so great, no? And some disaster strikes, some calamity, some trauma happens. And that's material life. Or we try to climb the ladder of success. Let's say you're climbing a mountain, climbing a very high mountain, and it's so exciting, the trekking and everything, and you really just want to get on the top. So you use your whole life, you're climbing, you're getting on the top, and you reach the top after so much struggle. So much struggle, there's a lack of oxygen and this and that, and whatever. But still, you reach on the top, somehow you manage, and it's like enormous accomplishment. Not many can achieve such kind of accomplishment, no? And then you're on the top, and then after some time, you get hungry. Even though you can have, 360-degree view from there, or whatever. But even there, even that view, sometimes, very often, I've been to Himalayas quite often. Afternoon, a lot of clouds gather. If you want to reach anywhere or achieve anything or do something, you have to do it in the morning. And from the noon time, winding up, looking for some settlement or shelter before the late noon time, afternoon, because then the clouds gather and it's a good chance of rain or even snow. Quite often. That's what happens in the Himalayas. And the wind will come, heavy wind. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. So if you want to do something, you have to do it better early in the morning till noon time and then winding up slowly as soon as possible. Because if you're caught, you can't stay anywhere. It becomes very slippery, becomes very dangerous. And the weather also changes. So again, that's the nature of material existence. You reach to the top, you reach whatever you want, you gain what you want, but then you find out, either the nature itself can cause you trouble. Diving, or you just you can feel so many urges of the body that can't be fulfilled on that level. And then what if you just feel lonely? You're on the top, but you're alone. Is that going to be very nice? No, it's not going to be very nice. So that is the nature of material existence. That's the nature of material existence. It's just something that we keep on experiencing over and over. But unfortunately, we don't remember. We don't remember it. We forget. That's our biggest problem. It's our biggest problem. If you want to know the nature of this material world, mathematics, that's called extrapolation. Just extrapolate. We just take your own life. Just see so far how much you have been happy, how much you have been sad, what had happened. Just extrapolate. Just pull the line, make the graph. That much time, this much happiness, whatever. How things have been going on. Do you think that any changes will happen? No, it's just going to continue pretty much the same way. You can just pretty much guess it in the future. Yeah, it's going to be not much different. It's not going to be much difference. That's material existence. So that's what we talked about Shreyas and Prayas. If you remember a little bit, we talked about we always want something instant, that it's of terrible quality and that affects us in so many ways, including health. It's a very low taste, but we miss on Shreyas. Shreyas, which is very essential. Shreyas means ultimate goal. Sometimes we don't, or we're not ready, let's say, to sacrifice time and energy for something that it's absolute again, when we talk about absolute. Because again, this absolute, what is absolute? It's unadulterated. That's why I said, there are lower planets, there are higher planets, we are in the middle. Spiritual world is just uncontaminated, unadulterated. It's just ever expanding and perfect. So by that logic, we could understand if there is something that it's absolute in some, let's say, okay, we can say light. And then just the absence of light, it's darkness, no? So spiritual world is just always illuminated. It's perfect. But here we find shades and darkness. So it's just, that's why they said that material world is perverted reflection of the absolute realm. But as a good news is that even in this world, we can experience some absolute happiness, which is natural to our position, which is natural to our soul. We can have that experience. How? By aligning with the process that gives that experience. The more we align, the more we are conscious, the more we are connected. That's the whole point. We cannot generate that ourselves, but we have to connect. So as much as we can connect, we can experience that wonderful happiness. That's what spiritual life is about. But that takes some effort. That takes some little sacrifice. Because we cannot keep on holding upon something that it's imperfect and expect some perfection simultaneously. That's not going to work. You have to let go something that it's defective, that it's binding us, causing us so much trouble and misery. And then we have to accept something that it's eternal, something that it's perfect. At least we have to try. That's what this invitation and these sessions are all about. At least we should try experiencing some devotional service. Many times we do have experience once we are completely absorbed in such kind of devotional service. We transgress all the misconception of spiritual reality. And we experience what? We experience that bliss that nobody can practically conceive of. There's one very good example. Yeah. And that has to be experienced in such a way, that has to be done in such a way, because these misconceptions hold us to this material, temporary, miserable existence. So in this way, by practicing spiritual life, we then transcend material imperfections. So how is that possible? There's one very, very wonderful example. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the beginning of the 10th canto, the most prominent speakers of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami and listener Parikshit Maharaj, they're discussing, they're hearing so many things. I mean, Parikshit Maharaj is hearing and asking questions. Shukadeva Goswami is replying. So Parikshit Maharaj asked one very interesting question. He said, now I'm hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam, already 9 canto he have heard, that's a lot. 10 canto, it's pretty much towards the end, almost. Narration is completed. So he asked one question. He said, how is it that, first of all, I got cursed to die? I got cursed to die within 7 days because of one reason, because of my urges. What happened, if you know the story? Parikshit Maharaj was hunting. And he was hunting in the forest, and he felt very tired. He felt very thirsty. And he came across the cottage, one kutir of one sage, Shankha. Was it Shankha? I think it is. Shankha Rishi. Anyway, so he came across his kutir, and this sage was meditating, completely in trance, absorbed in his meditation on the Supreme Absolute. And now the king entered the hut of that sage, and he was expecting some at least welcoming words, no? He was expecting at least, okay, please, there's some basic etiquettes in a civilized world, when we meet someone or somebody is hosting someone, at least please sit down. At least, if nothing else, okay, would you like to take some water? Something welcoming, some welcoming, nice words. But when the king came, there was no response. This sage was just sitting in his lotus posture, meditating, just like nothing had happened. And the king became very, very disturbed. Very disturbed. What kind of hospitality is this? What kind of culture is this? And kings can be very, very fiery, very upset, because their duty is to uphold and enunciate the Dharma. So if the Dharma is not happening, that they can become very, very, very upset. So the king became very upset. And then what he did, he just so angrily, rushed out of the hut, and he found a dead snake very close nearby. He took his bow, he took the dead snake, came back and garlanded the sage with the dead snake. Quite an offense. Quite an offense. Somebody puts the dead snake around you. It's like, be very nice. Dead or alive, it doesn't matter. It's like, once I was with one devotee in Rishikesh, and they had some python, so he had put like this. He took photos. I said, "What are you doing, man?" I was like, "So contaminated. I have to go and take a bath, jump in Ganga." So quite an offense, for which he got cursed by his son. Anyway, so the whole pastime and whole Srimad Bhagavatam unraveled like this. But then he said, now, for so many, practically that means almost 7 days, he had been just sitting and listening to Srimad Bhagavatam day and night. No sleep, no drink, no food. And he said, I'm completely satiated, completely peaceful and satisfied. So he said, how is this possible? How is this possible? Because he said, that time I was so upset, no? I was so driven by my urges of tiredness and thirst, and I reacted in such a way. But now I can see, just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, what is my consciousness? Completely different. No? So this is what was confirmed by Shukadeva Goswami. It's just very, very interesting. What was the position of Parikshit Maharaj then? You see, just by hearing the transcendental topics, when you get absorbed, that's the absolute, which keeps on increasing. Of course, our body cannot stand that. That's another point. There is a limit. But at least we can have some experience of it. When we get absorbed in devotional service, you can all have that experience if you get absorbed in devotional service. Yeah. So that's why we pointed out last time that when we don't perform devotional service, we're just acting for our sense gratification. No? We want more and more and more, and we are never satiated. Just like you see some countries in the world, they have so much wealth. They have so many resources because they're exploiting the whole rest of the world. They're not happy. They have more crime, they have more mental illness, they have more suicides, they have more trouble than anybody else. So is that a sign of happiness? We discussed, last time we gave this PowerPoint presentation. Like in US, it's the greatest jailer in the world. They have so many people behind the bars. Is that a sign of happiness? People committing so much crime. That's definitely not a sign of happiness. No. So that's why the happiness is possible only on spiritual level, not on the sensual level, because our senses are also limited. Our senses are very, very restricted. How much we can have, how much can it satisfy us? If we go beyond the senses, there are emotions. On an emotional level, you can be happier much longer. Of course, you can be also much more miserable. Both ways you turn it. Both ways you turn it. But when you come to the spiritual platform, there's no misery. That's the whole point. There are no dualities. You see, material world is characterized by its nature of being dual, having that dual nature. But when we talk about transcendence, when we talk about Krishna, when we talk about ourselves, no, there's no duality. There's only spiritual reality. There's no good or bad in the spiritual world. There's no honor or dishonor in the spiritual world. There's no heat or cold. There are no dualities. In this material world, every moment you experience some duality. Now it's like this, next moment it's like that. And then the mind, you will see how your mind always reacts according to impressions. I like this, I don't like that. No? And you always react like that based on previous experience. I like, I don't like. It's all part of the duality. But spiritual world, it's the absolute world where everything is just blissful, ever increasingly blissful. That's why it's absolute happiness. That's why it's absolute happiness. So now you think a little bit for a moment, because I asked that question in the beginning, no? What do you think the absolute is? Would we want to become part of that absolute existence? Because for now, we have so much bad experience that it's really difficult sometimes to accept even the concept is, how is it possible to be happy? You know, it's like, and just being more happy and just being more happy, you know, just ha 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 ha. You know, just like we said, you know, you go to the beach and I find these people, you know, the laughing therapy, you know, ha ha ha, everybody. And then everybody else is laughing, you know, more than they do. You know. It's so funny, you know. It's like, of course, but it doesn't last. That's the whole point. That's another point. But spiritual world is really ever blissful. Just everything is bliss. That's the nature of the absolute. You know? So there is a very interesting story told by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, which points out to the nature of this material nature of material existence, which is so imperfect and which is so illusory. And because we are so attached to it and we are so bewildered by it, that's the real reason and practically the only reason why we cannot taste the absolute happiness. That's what this process of spiritual practice, it's meant to vinash, like eradicate, destroy completely that illusion. And what is that illusion? Illusion is because of what? Because of ignorance. Because of ignorance. What is the greatest ignorance? Anybody guess? What is the greatest ignorance? Yes? We are the body, okay. Yes? We will not die, yes. Are you? The biggest ignorance is ignorance of Krishna. If you come on Tuesday class, we're discussing Puranjana's story. He forgot Krishna. It's his best friend within his own heart. He didn't have to even look anywhere else. He forgot about Krishna. From that, everything else is just like, like a domino effect. So many other types of ignorance, including whatever you have mentioned also. We've forgotten Krishna. That's our biggest ignorance. And because of ignorance, we commit sinful activities. Because of sinful activities, we suffer. That's how it works. Ignorance, sin, suffering. ISS. I don't know. Anything? ISS officers. No, something like that. That's how it works. That's the connection. So that's why we suffer. Yeah. That's why we cannot taste that absolute happiness, because we are in ignorance. That's the major cause of our entanglement in this material world, of this duality that we are experiencing. That's why we are experiencing dualities. So to illustrate a little bit this ignorance, the madness that we are all pretty much entangled with, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj told a story about one big circus. Everybody knows the circus. I don't know if you have it. I remember when I was a kid, I just went once and I had a bad experience. I won't tell that now. I had a bad experience with some animal. One animal purified me. I was very small and I started crying, and my mother had to take me home because I was like. Anyway, I won't tell this now what happened. But I never after that I went to the circus. Never after that. I learned the lesson. Even before the circus started, it's like somewhere or other, never happened again. But there are these big, they can read big, circus presentations and all kinds of shows and this and that, all kinds of things may happen. So there was one such kind of a circus, and it came to this helicopter ground here. What's that called? It's in front of. Huh? No, yeah, helipad. But here, they set it up here. They took all the ground there. They got permission from whatever BMC or someone or some kind of Mumbai authorities to set a big circus. And they advertised it like for 2-3 weeks. When you keep on hearing advertisements everywhere, just you see wherever you go here, any road you take, you'll see the big circus have come to Mumbai. And come and join the show, enjoy the show, and this and that. And they were advertising some acrobatics will happen, and then so many this will happen, and that will happen. And, it's just amazing. It's fabulous. It's just inconceivable. Never happened before, And it's so enormous, It will take, a few days practically, to go through the whole experience. And so many advertisements, through all types of media. And people started talking about it. And that became another advertisement. Now, when you start, talking, you talk to your friends, and they say, "Wow, you heard about this? What do you think? Yeah, maybe we should go. Yes, okay, we should go, and we should see. We should have an experience." So everybody was so excited. Okay, when this circus will open. So then the date came, and then you see there's so many people, so many, just like today. There's a big line, for Prashadam. But it came afternoon. Because there was one condition for this circus to have an experience of that. There was one condition. The condition was that you go one by one. You have a very personal, unique experience. That was the condition. You go one by one. And that's why people were lined up, all the way, the whole Juhu beach, everyone around and here. So many people wanted to have that experience. And of course, you pay the ticket, which was very cheap. That was also very exciting. It didn't cost much, like 10 rupees or something. It was really nominal. No, almost nothing. So everybody was so excited. Everybody was talking about it. I was like, really? So what will happen? How? Wow! Just that they featured so many things. They saw some promo videos, and this and that. And everybody was like so hyped up. And then now one person managed to be first, and he was like so happy. I'm the first. And then he was welcomed. Yes, please come and enter. And he saw the big, enormous, tent. Like huge. And then he entered inside. And then his mood started a little bit changing, because when he entered, all he saw were just some kind of, like the cartoon images. It's like, like kind of painted cartoon images. He saw the tiger jumping through the ring of fire. And he saw cartoon images of elephant dancing. Then he saw some monkeys doing some tricks. But it was all just, it was just all cartoon images. There was no substance, There's nothing happening. There's nothing dynamic. It was just like a very plain, but huge tent. So many things like that. It's just like you're going to some photographic exhibition or something. But because that was not advertised, so he became really restless. But there was one guard, who was there making sure that everything is intact. It was a huge guy. Huge guy, just like this. What was that fellow who was wrestling Kali? You know that fellow Kali. Maybe somebody can, Adbhuta Hari. Maybe somebody can ask him. He might have an image. That fellow met Giriraj Swami in US. There is a photo of him with Giriraj Swami. I've seen that. And he's huge, Giriraj Swami. It's like. It's like yeah. So anyway, so this guy, is like some huge fellow, really, and he knows the martial arts and everything, and he has one danda, not just danda, but this gada, it's like this, it's like really, he's merciless, he's like really like this. So then this first fellow, he started arguing, what is this? I paid for the ticket, what kind of circus? This is really a circus, what are you showing here? What is going on? He became upset. He had so many expectations, and, he was like, he started kicking a little bit of, what is this nonsense? For 3 weeks, I've been hearing about so many things, this, and then I come inside, well, what is this? What are you showing? What is this? And then because he's became so, a little bit almost violent, And this fellow also pushed him and said, "What are you doing? What's your problem?" And I was like, "Why are you disturbing now? Why are you creating such havoc?" And then they started quarreling, and sure enough, that fellow, what happened? He got with Gada, he was beaten like anything. No? And then he was kicked out. And the exit was very close to the entry. So when this fellow fell out, he quickly, adjust himself, just really removed all the whatever, he just covered his bruises and whatever was torn, he was kind of hiding also in this and that, and this quickly. And then everybody in the line waited, said, "Wow, how was it? How was it? How was it? What kind of show was going on? What was the experience?" And everybody's like, like in such a. So what would you say when everybody in such a mood? No, what would be your response? Would you dare to speak the truth? No, and everybody, everybody is so much expectation. And this fellow said, "It was fabulous. It was so amazing." I was like, I've never experienced anything greater in my life. It was so good. It was so amazing. Yeah. Because that's the point. Nobody wants to be an idiot. This is the nature of material world. Nobody wants to admit what the reality is. And how we get cheated. How we allow ourselves to be cheated. Nobody wants to tell the truth. Everybody's wearing a mask. How is your family? Oh, everything is perfect. Everything is nice. Everything is great. Everything is, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. No, that's the nature of material world. Nobody wants to be an idiot. You made a mistake. You don't want to know others that you've made a mistake. So everybody's bluffing everybody else, cheating everybody else. So he said it was wonderful. So the second guy, wow, I'm next, terrible. Same thing happened. He was kicked out, and everybody else, how was it? Now, what will he say? This first guy had such a good experience, now what will I say? So he also said, amazing show. I've never seen better circus. They were jumping and dancing and this and that, and music was the latest hits, everything wonderful, this and that, whatever. And then so many people went, and then the news spread, wow, amazing circus is in the town, and many more people came. But what was the most important? What was the most amazing? That first guy, he again heard the same story. The circus is amazing. He stood back in line. Because he thought, maybe I just had a bad experience. Maybe everybody, maybe something was wrong with, I don't know, maybe everybody's talking about it. It must have been so amazing. It must have been so wonderful, but maybe I just missed it somehow. Let me go again. Let me check it out. Let's see how kind of idiots we are. Aren't we doing this in this material world? You have a bad experience, and then you say, oh, maybe, this time will be better. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I should improve something. And then again, this is what Srila Prabhupada calls this word, chewing the chew. Chewing the chew. You already chew it. You know what it is. You extract all the juice, even better. Then you start doing it again. There's nothing there. Or you already had a bad experience. You go from one marriage to another marriage. Didn't learn anything. Oh, this time will be better. Okay, how will it be better? Or so many things happen like this. We don't learn the lesson. We just go to say one circus from one into another, one circus into another. This is the nature of material existence. We are so much ignorant. We're so ignorant. We're so ignorant that again we are, ready to commit the same mistake. Why? Because we never want to turn towards Krishna. We never want to inquire about the nature of the absolute. That's just so amazing. That's just so amazing. And then where can there be question of absolute happiness? We're just experiencing almost practically an absolute misery. Why? Again, just because of ignorance. Just because of ignorance. So that's why this process is here to give us knowledge, to give us guidance, to give us intelligence. First of all, to perceive the nature of duality that we are living in. And then look for something that our soul, our nature hankers for. So why we are looking for happiness? Don't we ever ask ourselves that question? Why? Why? Because it's our nature. Anandamaya Vyasa, it's our nature. We want it, but we are looking at it at the wrong place. Performing wrong activities, hoping for wrong, to gain the wrong and obtain the wrong goals. That's what's ignorance. That's why don't live your, waste your lives in this kind of circus type of existence. Get out of there. Don't allow yourself to be fooled. Yeah. There's so many advertisements. Get this, buy that, experience that. So many, every moment you're getting on your mobile, some advertisement, something subliminal that will, be registered by your mind and later force you to have it or taste it or experience it. Every moment you're subjected to so many illusions. We should stop that. Don't allow yourself to be cheated like this. Yeah. Like we said, so many advertisements about the circus. We are exposed. We are willingly allowing ourselves to be cheated. Yeah. And because of that, something that has a substance, we miss that out. Understand? Something that has a substance, we are missing that out. Because of ignorance, because we allow ourselves to be cheated. And we didn't take little trouble to inquire what the essence and what the absolute is. That's our greatest misfortune. So if you want to realize the absolute nature of our real spiritual existence, well, then we have to become a little bit serious about this process. Just like yesterday we were discussing about Lord Nityananda's appearance, and today also. One of the great acharyas appeared, Narottam Das Thakur. They're all filled with mercy, and all they demand from us is just little faith. Little faith, apply this process, get a result. You'll have the experience, your own experience. Based on that, you make your own decisions. But allow yourself to have a little glimpse of that absolute happiness. Okay, Hare Krishna, we'll stop here. Any questions on this? Do we have drama? Yeah, drama is there? Okay, then anyway, if any questions, then we can discuss that during the evening prasadam. Hare Krishna. So let's have a drama now.
Hare Krishna. So we will thanks Prabhuji for giving a very wonderful session. We will thanks by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So please be seated. No drama.
He is there, but he is not there. अरे वो किधर है? बॉक्स इधर है. दूसरा माइक अरे लाइट्स माइक किधर है? दूसरा माइक किधर है? दूसरा